Hello and welcome to the North America Gaelic Football Podcast, the home of Gaelic football here in North America. I'm your host, Gareth McAlinden. Before we get going, just a quick shout out to our sponsors, Masita, who've been a sponsor of the USGS since 2017. But with that being said, just want to quickly welcome John Foley to the show today. John, how's everything going? What's the crack?
Gareth, how are you getting on? Good to see you. Good to be finally talking to you.
I know.
You took the time to get me on the show tonight.
We always make time. Always make time for the lads, you know. But John, do you want to give us a quick background of you? I know obviously right now you're based in Chicago now, but you want to give us a little background of where you're from back home, your club, and you know how the hell you ended up in Chicago.
Sure, yeah, happy to, Gareth. I'm from County Waterford. I'm from a town called Dungarvan, seaside town in the southeast of the country. My club would be Abbeyside Ballynacorty. We're a senior club in both hurling and football. And I played at both grades myself underage. My playing days are well behind me now at this stage, Gareth. But I moved over here then to Chicago in 2018. I guess like a lot of Irish men who end up in the States, it's women who get us across the water. It was no different for me. So I'm here since 2018, Gareth, to be honest with you. Everything's going well so far.
Brilliant. Was it, did you meet the woman back in Ireland or did you meet her here?
It's a long story, Gareth. There's a lot of fellas telling me that there should be a movie made about it, but I won't get into the nitty gritty. But we met a long time ago back in Boston, actually. Bit over and back, bit on and off, bit over and back again, more on and off, and finally we got our act together a couple of years ago. I work for Northern Trust, and I was working in the Dublin office, and of course Northern Trust are an American bank here, so I was able to request a transfer to get moved out to Chicago, which I did, and that's where it's the way it's been ever since. We got married a couple of months later and went on to have a family. So based here in Chicago for now, for sure, yeah.
Fantastic. Now, is she from the Boston area or is she from Chicago?
No, she's from Grand Rapids in Michigan. So over the road from Chicago, really, just the other side of the lake. But yeah, back in the day, Gareth, she decided to head to Boston to suss out the place for a weekend, and we bumped into each other. And sure, just panned out that here we are back in Chicago many years later.
Now, you weren't playing any ball over in Boston, were you?
I did, Gareth. Yeah, I played. I came out originally on a J1 visa, and I played hurling with Galway in Boston. So I was actually living when we moved first. We were in Brighton. We were in Brighton, and then we moved over to Cambridge, over onto Mass Ave, just up from the harbour. It stopped the Phoenix Landing and the Field are two good Irish bars there. I frequented those a lot of times. But yeah, I played hurling and football, played hurling with Galway, and played a little bit of football with, I think it was Wexford I played with. They were just starting off at the time. I don't even know if they're still up and running, but really it was the hurling is what I played when I was there. Yeah, played some good lads were there when I was out there. Sean O'Halpin's younger brother, Theo, was there. John Anderson from Cork, Jerry Quinn from Clare, Clinton Hennessy actually played in goal for Shannon Blues at the time. I think Paul Shelley actually played for Shannon Blues as well. But that was my experience. Thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, with Peter Murray and John Moylan and all them lads. So,
who went from on the Galway side, was that?
Galway hurling, yeah. So Peter Murray is actually, and I actually had him on an episode. So Peter's
really?
the chair of the Northeast Division,
Okay.
but he's very heavily involved with Galway. He's a big hurler.
Okay.
Peter's a great lad, and if you had the chance, it's a great episode with him. Man's been around the Boston area for a long time, and geez, he knows that book inside out. Great man to know if you have any questions about, if you're on a board and looking for advice. Great man to have a side conversation with.
Okay. Yeah, it was Brendan Morrissey and Joe Morrissey were they're from Athenry originally. I know those boys were involved back in the day, but that's a long time ago now, Gareth, too.
What year was that?
That'll be telling you how old I am. No, I'm only joking. That was 2000, yeah, 2000. So a long time ago.
Yeah, I've no comeback to that. Sorry, 2000.
I didn't think you would, Gareth.
So, but yeah, it definitely has. I mean, Boston. Like you were there in 2000, and I'm sure you've seen some of the clubs. And Shannon Blues, as another club is still around, and Galway is still
Mm,
around. A lot of those clubs are still kicking on, which is phenomenal. And obviously a lot of new clubs too, like clubs like ourselves, Worcester Fenians, popping up. I think they re came up and around like 2008, and it was mostly hurling at that time. But now we've moved into football, so definitely starting to see a lot more teams and a lot more divisions too. Like I'm sure when you were there probably was 3 divisions, 4 divisions.
yeah, I think it wasn't any more than that, Gareth.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Now you're talking like in the Northeast Division, you have in football alone, you have senior, intermediate, junior A, junior B, junior C, 5
Okay.
divisions.
Yeah,
And
massive.
it's phenomenal. So whenever you get back into Boston, we'll get out to Canton and relive the
I know.
memories, huh?
I know, and I still remember. It's funny you see in social media. There's so much coverage on social media now, but I'm sure it's changed over the years. But a lot of it seems to have retained a lot of its characteristics too. I remember the little stand was there, and then the bar just beside where the dressing rooms used to be. Even one of the guys who moved from Chicago to Boston recently, he's moved to a club up there, but he had filmed basically the walk in, and it just seemed like it hadn't changed at all in 20 years. From the car park walking in, seeing the pitch on the left hand side, and the bar facilities and the restroom on the right. So
Yeah, and the bridge probably same paint color. So no, it's what, we're very lucky. Even yourselves, Nationals was there in Chicago last year, and we talked to. I actually had a recent episode that I'll actually be posting with Donegal, and one of the lads from Donegal, and we kind of both were almost taken away by like the setup Chicago has, and especially that outdoor bar. They did an unbelievable job with that place. Like, and you almost have like an opportunity there in Canton where they could do something like that. But again, that's a conversation way down there. That's a conversation for over pints.
exactly.
Tell us a bit about your journey with Padraig Pearse's playing, obviously coaching as well. We can get into a little bit of that.
Sure, yeah. So I moved in 2018, Gareth, and I got involved with actually the Limerick Hurling Club here that summer. And so I coached them. Hurling in Chicago is kind of, football is much stronger. There's much more of there's a much higher population playing it. Hurling is kind of, I wouldn't say a poor relation, but it just doesn't have the same numbers involved as footballers would. So there was 2 clubs basically back in 2018, and the Chicago GA board decided to run off a championship between the 2 clubs, so the best of 5, which was good in fairness because there was an interest there. Lads were coming over, so they ran that championship off. So that's how I got involved with the GA here in Chicago, really. And then the pandemic hit, Gareth, and of course there was a lull. There was nothing going on. And then because hurling again was more reliant on lads coming over from Ireland, the clubs here didn't really have an opportunity to have a championship when things did open up again, because there was restrictions obviously on lads coming over from Ireland. So it kind of fell even further away into the background, really, unfortunately. But I got a phone call then in 2021. I think it was the end of 2020 or the start of 2021. The chairman of the Padraig Pearse's club, Stephen Feeney, who I know you've had on recently as a guest, he just called me. I'd known Stephen kind of just from seeing him, around Gaelic Park and stuff. And he reached out to me and just asked me would I be interested in helping out for the year. So I jumped at the opportunity, really, Gary, to be honest with you. Like I do, I've managed my own club at home before, and I had coached them for half a year as well. But the coaching aspect, the opportunity to get back into it with the Pearses just really appealed to me, especially coming out of the COVID and the pandemic, and I guess wanting to get out of the house too, and get that social aspect going again. So it kind of went from there. Then I jumped at the opportunity when Stephen reached out to me, and coached them for 21 and 22. Yeah, so that's how it went. Did a little bit myself. You probably know yourself from your own coaching. There's that feeling of picking up a hurley or kicking a ball. You feel like irrespective of how old you are, you still have it, or you could still contribute some way. But I resisted. I got the boots on, all right, but I resisted from actually togging out for any real competitive fixtures. Maybe an odd friendly. We went up a couple of miles up the road to Milwaukee to play kind of a fall game. But that was it really. So just predominantly the coaching, really, Gareth, to be honest with you.
It's now, did you travel? So the first year back obviously was that very weird year, where a lot of the big cities, Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, even San Francisco, a lot of their home base, not home base, a lot of their clubs were based on J1 lads coming over. That's what filled out, if you, let's just say for an example, you were a team like McAnespies in Boston, that's the difference between having 3 teams versus 2 teams or even one team, all these lads coming over for the summer. Did you end up traveling to Boston that year for nationals?
Yeah, they did. I actually ended up going home. So I was here for all the way through the championship, and then we just had our holidays booked to go back. So the team won the Chicago championship, and then they did travel to Boston for the nationals. Yeah. But I wasn't part of that. I was back in Ireland.
Yeah, because I know there was a lot of teams that didn't travel. There was a lot of clubs struggling, and that's especially some of the newer clubs, and trying to get everything back in. And it's like you're trying to promote something, you're trying to bring people in, but then when you have no games, no training, how do you keep them? That was, I guess, the biggest challenge. But we were very fortunate ourselves. We kind of started the club in COVID, and I think people were looking for, hey, I just need to get out of the house. And some of our training was just kicking the ball around, just getting out there and kicking. It didn't really, obviously socially distant, but you're going to be doing that anyway, playing hurling or football. Started off with a bunch of us just going out and kicking a ball to, all right, well, now restrictions are out. Let's start getting games in. And fast forward, 2-3 years later, and, we have 3 teams, 2 hurling, 1 football. Hurling just won the Northeast Junior B hurling on Sunday, and we have our C football and C hurling in the final this weekend. So, obviously a lot of negative stories from COVID years, but for us, it's been, it's been only a positive for our club. And a lot of other clubs had very similar, some other clubs have had similar stories too. Charlotte being another one. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, did you ever watch the video they put up online about the ladies football in Charlotte?
No, I haven't seen it.
I follow them on social media all the time. And actually, I think I give them a shout out a lot. But they just travel to the World Games. We stayed in the same hotel as them in Chicago last year, but Jesus Christ, they travel in numbers. I think they had a men's football, men's hurling, ladies football, camogie, and multiple teams in each. It's phenomenal, So, they're kind of like our target. Some of the senior clubs maybe not have the same kind of target. But for us, it's more listen, we're, for us, it's a bit of crack. The ball's a small part of it, but the crack is the fucking,
Yeah, but that probably explains too, Gareth, why you're getting such good numbers. You know what I mean? A lot of people, like you say, the pandemic, it's probably, it was a release for people, that I suppose desire to get out of the house, meet new people, do something new. But I mean, having that fun element, I think it's critical in any sport, to be quite honest, in terms of coaching or a team really gelling. I think you have to always have that element of fun, and that's testament to the amount of work you and your team are doing in terms of not alone maintaining numbers, but getting them to grow even further. So, it's all about fun at the end of the day, I think, and people enjoying themselves.
But winning at the same time.
And the crack.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had a couple of sessions this year where I almost had to not lose the plot a little bit, but like, like almost went a little bit old school, like, where, you grew up and you always had like, you always had that one manager that just, whenever things got out of control, they just had to step in and be like, right, fucking wise up, And it's like, but it's kind of like a borderline where you don't want to cross the line too, like, because it is fun at the same time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're there to win too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But listen, I love it. This is why we come back and play every year. This is why we come back and, we join the boards and, we go on podcasts and talk about Gaelic football because it brings us back. And whether it's Gaelic football or hurling, it's a phenomenal thing. But so last year, obviously you were managing 2021, 2022. Were you managing that team or were you coaching that team?
No, I coached both years. I coached Gareth. It was Rory Moan was the manager the first year, and then so I coached that year, and then last year Shawnee Tobin got involved with Rory, and I was coaching.
So that was some year though. Some
names.
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah, just football in general in the city. Gareth was. Now again, I'm only basing it on my experience for 5 years, but when I look at the caliber of players who came out there last year, it was phenomenal. Like, I mean, if you look at the teams that were here, like McBride's had, I think they brought 7. I'm nearly sure 6 or 7 of the Mayo senior panel were brought out in one go. That's not even including some of the other names they had. Parnell's had some big names: Rian O'Neill from Armagh, Conor Myler, and Conor McKernan, I think was his name, from Tyrone. They had Barry O'Hagan from Down, Dylan Johnson, Rian Johnson from Down as well. So, and then even from our own perspective, like we had Rory O'Dwyer from Dublin. In terms of names, like high profile names, McBride's and Parnell seem to have the high profile names. From our perspective, we had Dan Amani, who's now centre back. He played centre back for Cork this year in the championship. Brian O'Donovan from Limerick, who he was kind of lining out a corner forward or full forward and centre forward for Limerick this year. We had Dan McCarthy from Kerry. We had Darren McGurn from Fermanagh, who played for Fermanagh this year in Croke Park. Adam Loughran from Antrim. He played centre forward for Antrim actually in I think it was the semi-final. They lost to Meath, I think, in the Tailteann. Was it? Yeah. So like we had some good names, and again, like no offense and no disrespect meant, but like the likes of Rian O'Neill, like he's known throughout Ireland, you know what I mean? Whereas some of the other lads might not have the same exposure or high profile. But again, it doesn't it shows you it doesn't all is boiled down to the name or the profile that you have. It takes more than that to become a successful winning team.
Especially, it's in my opinion anyway, obviously you have players, obviously you just named a bunch of them, but it's a different game out here. It's a completely different game. The 13-a-side is just, it's such a different game. As far as like, running, it's a space, if you're a cornerback, forget about it.
Yeah, it's a different, when I still look at Gaelic Park. I went down there on Sunday for the semi-final for the first time this year. And like the pitch is so big, and like you say, 13 aside. And it's funny, just one of the guys, so Pearses were playing McBride's, and just the corner forward for the Pearses, I was watching his man, and like he was being dragged left and right and over and back, and I just felt sorry for the cornerback, to be honest with you. He was just absolutely in that heat. You know yourself how hot it gets out here. The humidity down in Gaelic Park, you're away from the lake. It feels like it's 10, 15 degrees hotter than it is actually in the city. And then just that constant fitness, that's required, in GA alone, but you're trying to factor that into account then with 2 less players on the pitch and sweltering heat and humidity. So I certainly don't envy the lads who, I wish I had their fitness. I don't think I ever had their fitness, but it's just gone to a whole new level now. And it's like you say, it's not, you can't compare two codes, in my opinion. You can't compare Gaelic football in Ireland to Gaelic football here. I think certain players have certain attributes that can work out here, but it's definitely a much tougher sport. And I suppose if you were to even interview any of the lads who do come out on a J1, it'd be interesting to see what their honest feedback would be to you in terms of what their actual first experience was like for the first 2 to 3 weeks at least, because there is certainly, I suppose, an element of acclimatizing to the conditions out here.
I think you've been involved this much this year, right? You said you were out there for the first time this weekend.
Yeah, I was down there for the first time. Yeah, this weekend. Just took a step back this year, Garrett. Just personal circumstances meant I just couldn't give the commitment. Certainly not the commitment that I'd like to give to any team I'd be coaching. You know, it's a full-time job. I kind of believe, you know, if we're going to get into something, I'm either all in or I'm not in at all, you know, and I just couldn't give the commitment to the club that I feel they needed or that they deserved. So I just made a conscious decision that, you know, for this year I take a step back, as I said, just due to personal circumstances.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously last year, phenomenal year for you, obviously winning the Chicago championship. Then I think you ended up going on and winning the Nationals as well, right, in senior?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had the Chicago championship was unbelievable, Gareth, to be quite honest with you. I suppose how the players that came out, they had such a high profile. There was an awful lot of excitement. The crowds down the Gaelic Park were huge. They're now doing the coverage, you know, all the games are getting streamed now, so we had big audiences back home tuning in. So there was a huge buzz around the place. So we won the Chicago championship, and we defeated Parnell's in the final. We went through the campaign. We lost one game. We actually lost during the group stages. We lost to Parnell's. They're the only team we lost to, and we ended up meeting them in the final. I suppose due to the players that they had brought out, they were raging hot favourites. But we got over the line in the final, and then that brought us on to a special occasion because it's 50th anniversary of the Pearse's club, and the Nationals are being held in Chicago. So I think the stars kind of aligned for us, really, Gareth, more than anything else. We played San Diego champions in the semi-final, and we went on then to meet the Philadelphia Young Irelands in the final, who we defeated. So memorable and historic occasion for winning the North American title for the first time in the history of the club. So huge achievement, huge commitment from everybody from the ground up to in the club, you know, really massive support from everybody. There's an awful amount of goodwill around Chicago, and specifically within the Padraig Pearse's club. They say it takes a village. I think it takes probably a village and a little bit more than that to be successful. I think that the work ethic of everybody and the strong personalities within the club and within the players, in fairness to the players who came out, you know, they bought into what we were trying to achieve from day one. They saw what we as a club were about. They saw that we meant business. They saw that, you know, we cared more than anything. We were ambitious. We wanted to do this, and, you know, credit to each and every one of them, Garrett. They really stepped up to the plate because, you know, there's big names coming out, and there's only so many of these guys, you know, can get on the team, and, you know, that's a hard job for the management committee to decide who gets to start, who doesn't, who comes on when they come on. But huge credit to everybody in the club and the players who came out. Just a phenomenal effort throughout the whole year.
Yeah, congratulations. That's obviously some achievement. Obviously we had Feeney in there a couple of months ago talking more about it. But then obviously circumstances changes for you after that, you know, going from such a high to probably one of the most challenging times of your life.
Yeah, for sure, Gareth. Yeah. So just, I suppose, what I alluded to earlier on about personal circumstances, and the reason why I had to take a step back this year was, I'm married, as I mentioned earlier on, and we have a young boy already. He's going to be 4 in February. But last year, we also had another son. Our second son was born. He was born on September 15th, 2022. But so prior to that, if I bring you back to St. Patrick's Day, actually, of 2022, which would have been, I suppose, we had just started training and coaching with the Pearses at the time. But we knew we were pregnant, but on St. Patrick's Day of 2022, my wife phoned me, and we had decided to get diagnostic tests done, and we got results back from that to say that our baby had trisomy 18, which again, a lot of your listeners are probably like, what is that? That was pretty much our reaction too. I'd never heard of trisomy 18 in my life. It's commonly known as Edwards syndrome. But it's that was the news we got on Patrick's Day, and the outlook is not good, Gareth, for babies who have that syndrome. Very, very few of them make it full term. If any of them do make it full term, the majority of them, pass away within a couple of hours of birth. Only 5 to 10% of trisomy 18 babies make it to 1 year or beyond. So that's the news we got on Patrick's Day. So I suppose we made a decision, myself and my wife, to basically, I suppose, back our son and support him as much as possible in terms of giving him every opportunity to fight every minute of every day to make it into the world first and foremost. And then we felt if he could do that much, then it's only then we could step in along with the help of the medical professionals to, I suppose, help him even further, because we know with trisomy 18 babies, there's a lot of complexities, there's a lot of abnormalities with these babies. But we just felt, listen, we're going to back him. We're going to battle to the end with him, whatever that might be. He's going to just leave him take us on a journey, not knowing what the destination would be or how long it would be or where we'd end up. So we kind of made that decision, Gareth. And so that's all through. So that was from Patrick's Day right the way through then. We went through the championship. We won the championship. I suppose the huge thing for me, Gareth, was at the time I was coaching the Padraig Pearse's team. I didn't tell anybody about our circumstances, but just having people to talk about GAA and that social outlet and that distraction, like it was a huge help to me, knowing what I knew, and my wife knowing the same thing. The football was a huge outlet for me. It's a huge outlet anyway, but it was even more so in terms of helping me deal with everything that happened last year. So as a result of that, Gareth, our son was born then on September 15th, but he spent his life in Laurie Children's Hospital, in the NICU in Laurie Children's Hospital, where he received phenomenal care by the nurses and the medical professionals. And so that was September. He was born, and he was in the NICU down there every day. And so I made a decision then. So he made it through to the end of 2022. We celebrated Christmas Day, us as a family down in the NICU in Laurie's Hospital. But towards the end of 2022, Gareth, I felt I needed to do something. And so I made a conscious decision then that I wanted to raise awareness around trisomy 18, because I'll never forget that morning of Patrick's Day when I heard the words and had no idea what trisomy 18 or Edwards syndrome was. So, and I have a brother who is Down syndrome, but Edwards syndrome or trisomy 18 was brand new to me. So in a nutshell, I just decided, okay, I want to do something, and I felt what's the best thing I could do to raise awareness and raise funds. So I just thought, well, Lake Michigan is here. I think I'm going to cycle around Lake Michigan. So I kind of made that commitment to myself and to my son, Luca, that's what I would do. And the statistics around trisomy 18 babies, Gareth, is that 5 to 10% of them make it to a year or beyond. And we always felt that Luca would fall into that category of 5 to 10%. So I felt, okay, Lake Michigan, it's now late December. It's 9 months to his first birthday. We believe he's going to make it to his first birthday. This is perfect. I can start training now. This is not a jaunt around the block. This is going to take a lot of time and training. So I just made that commitment, Gareth. And as a result of that, then, of course, I felt I couldn't give the same commitment to Padraig Pearse's for 2023. So that's the decision I made, basically. Unfortunately, Luca passed away on February 15th. So 5 months he lived He survived that long, and he spent every day of that 5 months in the NICU in Laurie Children's Hospital. But as upsetting as that was and still is, it wasn't going to change my focus or my determination to, I suppose, honour that commitment I made for him and for Laurie Children's Hospital and the SOFT organisation who provides support for trisomy 18 families. So that's where I am, Gareth. That's ultimately brought me to where I am today, which is not being involved with Padraig Pearse's, and here I am 5 weeks out from beginning my lap around the lake for Luca, which is a 954-mile cycle, which I hope to start on September 9th and finish on September 15th, which is Luca's first birthday. So, because obviously the hope was that he'd be with us on that day. He will be with us. It'll just be in spirit, not physically.
That's brilliant. 900. Wow. Jesus. And just as I thought when I was, so we have the Pan Mass here in Massachusetts. It's a pretty big one. We're biking, but I mean, that's 100 miles. Okay. But then you just threw out the 900 there. I'm like, oh, Jesus. But, I can't imagine, obviously what you went through as a family. But, obviously when you obviously had the conversation with the club, for Padraig Pearse's, how was I'm sure the support there was nothing more than, amazing.
Yeah, no, phenomenal. Like I've said it from the outset, like even prior to Luca being born or him passing on, the club have been phenomenal to me from day one. I feel like if you talk to anybody who's got any association with Padraig Pearse's, Gareth, you'll get the exact same sentiment coming back to you from everybody. They truly are, they can be, the terminology can be bandied about kind of casually at times, but they truly are a club in a million as far as I'm concerned, especially when Luca passed away and the funeral, like there was a guard of honour, they just did everything for me and my family. I just could not speak highly enough of them. Just a phenomenal group of people, special group for sure.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So what have you been doing to prepare for this cycle? Because I can't even imagine where you even start with that.
Yeah, so a lot of cycling, a lot of training. So I reached out to a guy I knew. There's a guy called Mark Higgins here who's he's based on the south side and he does a bit of physio with the teams around here and with Pearse's. So I had dealt with Mark before, and he's competed as an Ironman athlete for Ireland. So I knew he had that background. So I said, well, he said, look, this guy seems like he should give me an idea of what I needed to be doing. So I reached out to Mark in early January and we just came up with a plan. I told him what my ambition was, what I hope to do, when I hope to do it, and why I wanted to do it. And so he gave me an online program. So basically I had to order the winters here. You're not going to be outside in a bike. So I had to go off and buy a smart trainer and get it set up in the basement and get my bike set up on it. And then there's a program called Zwift, which is basically kind of, you might be familiar with it, but you can do running, cycling, walking on it, but it basically gives you routes all over the world and there's different training programs you can do. So since kind of mid-January, that's what I've been doing, down in the basement, doing a lot of that. And then that training just increased over time in terms of distances. So at the moment, I got to a level down in the basement, Gareth, whereby I hit 100 miles. So I down in the basement on my stationary bike, I cycled 100 miles. And it's only now that I've gone outside since. I'm like, how did I actually do that? I don't know how I did it down in the basement, but I did it but thankfully now the weather is better and I'm outside. So my training now, guards, involved, it's 6 days a week. So just to kind of run through it real fast. Last weekend I would have done 110 miles on Saturday. So this is outside. And then Sunday I did 85 miles. Monday then, because I can't, obviously I have a job as well, so I can't be doing 6 and 7 hours of cycling midweek. So basically on a Monday, the plan is it's an hour of a kind of an easy ride, but then so Mondays and Wednesdays are easy rides. Then Tuesday and Thursday, Mark has tailored the training so that it's more like I'm climbing a hill, it's power work, it's stamina. So it's a 90-minute session, but it's the idea of it is that your legs feel, after 90 minutes, your legs would feel as tired as you would after probably cycling 4 hours. So it's trying to get that, replicate a 4 hour cycle, but compress it into a 90-minute session, which to be honest with you, I find those two 90-minute sessions so much harder than 100 miles in the basement doing, just your regular pace. But that's where I am at the moment, 6 days a week of training and 5 days are my day off.
Now, a bunch of the lads going to go cycle with you?
Yeah, I know there's a few lads, all right, who put their hand up, yeah, definitely for a couple of miles, maybe at the start, maybe at the end. One or two lads have put their hand up. I think they heard that Traverse City might be one of the places that I'd be passing through or passing by, and I think once they heard that city, they were jumping at the opportunity to to be cycling on that day. But like with the boys in the middle of the championship at the moment, I'm trying to stay away from them in terms of asking them can they do it or not. Like the Chicago final is on this weekend. We'll see after that. We'll see how things go on Sunday. But for sure, some lads have put up their hand and have family coming out from home for the last day, so they might hop on the bike too. So, but then 95% of it, Gareth, I'll be on my own.
I mean, how much of a mental battle is that going to be? I mean,
yeah,
I can't imagine. Like you've almost went through the toughest. That 95 miles. Can't be much worse than what you guys went through. So, but yeah, no, that's phenomenal. What do you hope to get? What do you hope to achieve out of obviously this cycle?
Yeah, well, I suppose when I made the decision, Garrett, that I wanted to do it, like the two things that stood out for me most were raising awareness and then raising funds. I feel like obviously there's a fair bit of work involved in this. It's a long distance. From day one, I didn't want it to be easy. I've seen people who've done it over a month. They've done it over 2 weeks. I just think about how hard and how resilient Luca was for the 5 months he spent on the earth. I just felt like the least I could do was make it hard on myself, or at least not make it easy. I didn't want it to be easy from day one. I didn't want it to be easy. But in terms of what I want to achieve from it, it's definitely to raise awareness worldwide, not alone in Ireland and America. I really want to reach, the ambition is that we can spread this far and wide, because not enough people know about Tri-C-18. Not enough people know that these kids, there is hope for them too. You know what I mean? Not all of them make it, but there certainly is hope for them. But the ambition is to raise awareness and then raise funds as well. We've set a lofty target of $100,000 to raise. So if we can make it, great. If we don't, it certainly won't be from the lack of trying. And we know that about Luca too, that he fought every minute of every day and he did everything he could along with his medical team. But it just, he just had to accept his call from God at the end of the day. But we'll certainly give it everything we can to do what we can to raise awareness and funds around this.
Where can people find the links to donate? Will that be on social media? Will you be posting that on different club sites, or how?
Yeah, we've a couple of things going, Gareth. So just to kind of briefly run through, we do have an Instagram page. It's called @LapTheLakeForLuca, and that's Luca with the C. So we've got that up and running. It's probably up and running maybe 5 or 6 weeks now. What we're trying to do there, and there's a link on that where people can, so if anybody's interested, they can follow the page, and there's a link in the bio where it brings you straight to a donation page if you want to donate there. There's also a website set up, www.lapthelakeforluca.com. Again, if people wanted to go to that will bring you straight to the donation page as well. Other than that, we have a few fundraising initiatives going on. We're actually running a trivia night here for all the GAA clubs in Chicago, so a bit of fun there. We're hoping that there's, between even the juvenile clubs, there might be 12 or 13 clubs involved, so we're hoping we can get 10 to 12 from each club involved there. So that's on in the Irish American Heritage Centre on August 12th. And the Heritage Centre have been good enough not to charge us any fees for that, for the rental of it. So that's one of the initiatives. the Padraig Pearse's club, they're getting involved in actually, through O'Neill's, we're getting some Tour de France jerseys made up, your yellow jersey, your polka dot, all these jerseys, with the hope that we can get sponsors to basically anybody who wants to get their company logo on the jersey. We're looking for a nominal fee from them to get that on. So that's up and running. We've raised a nice bit of money there. What else are we doing? My wife she's actually a yoga teacher as well, on top of being a teacher. So she's going to do yoga on the lake, down in Lake Michigan there. So that's another event we're doing. And then we're running something on social media, Gareth, which you might even be interested yourself in. So it's really simple. We're, again, getting back to the whole idea of how can we spread awareness around the world. And all I could think of was GAA. So many GAA clubs around the world, God, it truly is worldwide. And I kind of wanted to stay away from Ireland because I felt, now, hopefully this will get a bit of momentum and the clubs in Ireland will get involved too, but I wanted to focus in really on clubs, GAA clubs outside of Ireland. So what we're doing is I've been actively onto clubs in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, around the world basically. It's a short video. It's called Launch It for Luca. It's a small little campaign. All it is would be clubs whereby we would give them a template of whereby we'll say, my name is John Foley. I'm from the Padraig Pearse's club here in Chicago. We're here to support trisomy awareness, and here I am launching it for Luca. And then I would kick the ball or puck a sliotar. And so it's a short 10-second video, but ultimately you want to combine all those ones. So we might have a club in. So far we've 6 clubs in Australia. We've 1 in New Zealand, 1 in Singapore, 1 in Finland, 2 in the UK. So we're getting all those videos together. And then we're combining it so we could have one video where they're kicking it to each other around the world. So we're going to run a lot of these with the hope. Really, it's about spreading awareness, and we're hoping that will obviously go viral over time. But we're reaching out to clubs in North America as well. So anybody who's listening to this podcast, I've actually reached out to some of the clubs already, but so any of the clubs who are listening, please check your Instagram pages, go to your messages. There could be a message from me in there, just explaining our story, what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and when we're trying to do it by. So that's another campaign which I think will be huge, Gareth, in terms of just spreading it around the world. We are asking clubs, if they can, to donate $100 to the cause. If they can, brilliant. If they can't, that's fine too. But like every little bit of support would certainly help. So, and we're also getting the juvenile clubs involved as well. So one of the clubs here in Chicago, the Continental Youth Championships were just on recently. And so I spoke to one of the juvenile clubs here today, and they're reaching out to all the clubs, or the juvenile clubs in North America as well. So even if we get 10 of those clubs involved, it's all about raising awareness. Hopefully these videos can go viral, and just it'll just grow organically. That's the hope, really.
So you're still a little bit of time. So we've plenty of time. So the race kicks off. So you said it's September. Just remind us of the date when it officially kicks off.
Yeah, so September 9th.
September, okay.
September 9th is kicking off, Gareth. It's a Saturday morning. It'll be starting here in Chicago, and it'll be a 7-day event, hopefully. If conditions and things are in my favor, the ambition is that I can finish it on Luca's birthday, which will be the 15th of September. So it's going to involve, it's 140 miles a day, give or take. So it's going to work out at around 8.5, 9 hours of cycling per day. So it's not going to be easy, but we'll take it one day at a time.
You're going to have some sore hole after a few days.
I have already, Gareth. I have already, believe me.
Make sure you invest in a good seat.
Yeah, good seat, good shorts. I need a lot of good things, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, no, it's one of those, it's a one in a lifetime, I suppose, opportunity. It's definitely something that, is certainly close to my heart. But then, if we can achieve those two things of raising awareness and raising funds for Laurie Children's Hospital and the SOFT organisation, because they're the organisation are the people who support trisomy families, which are very important, because it is a tough time for families, when they get this news, and again, the uncertainty, the ignorance around it, so having that support is certainly vital.
And obviously the support of like GA community as a whole, it's one of a kind in a lot of ways.
Unbelievable, Gareth. Unbelievable. I know I haven't, and again, we really, like, in terms of, if you consider like the clubs that we have in Australia, my ability to contact them or to have a connection with them comes back to lads from my club at home in beside Ballynacorty, but also our club. So our captain, Jack Bambrick, who captained the Pearses to the Chicago title and the North American title last year, he moved to Australia. So, that connection with Jack from last year has opened up a door for me to liaise with Jack this year to get in contact with his club, and now they've submitted a video, you know what I mean? So just that, and that's all down to GAA. It's such a close-knit community, and yet as far away as Australia is from here, yet here we now have 6 clubs in Australia who have already committed and sent their video to us, all to support a great cause, and it all comes back to GAA.
Fantastic. So what I'll do is we'll make sure that we get the links posted. So whether we post it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any reels that we put up, we'll make sure that we can put any links in there for people to get directly to the website, directly to the Instagram page as well, so we can get a little bit of exposure there. But again, it's I don't think anybody can imagine what you and your families went through, but obviously the resilience, the strength to keep her lit and to do something like this, fair play to you. And I'm sure, you're going to have great support, not only your family, but your club, the whole GA community as a whole. So we definitely wish you the best in this ride. You never know. September, my little one might be a month. A month. I don't know if I
basket at the front, Gareth. Get a basket on the front of your bike, you'll be fine.
Batman Robin, just on the side.
Exactly, yeah.
No, it'd be a bit of crack though, anyway.
No, oh God, it will be. Yeah. No, it should be. And especially the last day, I think it'll be a bit of fun too. I just hope that because again, it's 130, 140 miles on the last day. I just hope I can. I suppose it'll be the adrenaline will get you over the line. Like a lot of the times, that's what does happen. It's the adrenaline that gets you over the line.
So after this, then what's the plan after that?
You're
gonna have
a few pints of Guinness, and I'll be certainly the first thing I'll be doing. I'm not going to do. Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to know what to do. I think my wife is going to be definitely happier, and my son is going to be happier that now I can do things that I haven't been able to do. Even today they're gone to Michigan for 2 days. I couldn't go because I work, and then even after this now I have to get on the bike after our conversation, Gareth, and get an hour session in. So things like that, I think they're going to be very appreciative of the extra time, or having our family time back together, I think, more than anything. But I will have a lot more time for family and other things. And certainly the hope would be to get back involved in GA in some capacity.
That's brilliant. Yeah, family time, obviously is super important there with the little one. I can only imagine there's probably a couch set up with a TV or something. It's like family time in the basement in the gym, which probably not the same, but for a great cause, obviously, and obviously something close to the family there.
Sure.
So, well, we'll do our best to kind of share as much as we can. Well, again, I think as if we can create as many reels from this episode as possible to help promote it too. We have some videos that have gotten a good few views. One of our latest ones with I don't know if you've seen TikTok, but one of the goalkeepers in Donegal, Boston, got like a last minute equalizer, and it's up to almost 100,000 views. So if we can get up anywhere close there, that would be nice,
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. You know, some of the videos we've done ourselves, and like I'm not an expert on TikTok at all, Gareth. Like it's all Instagram, to be honest, quite honest at the moment. But I think it's 14,000 is the most we've got so far. So if we could hit 20,000, I'd be delighted. Not to mind 100,000.
We'll do our best to get it close anyway.
Yeah, appreciate that. No,
Oh,
and the only other thing, Gareth, I'd say is like for any of the clubs who are listening, just guys, because we are reaching out through Instagram. You know, I don't have contact numbers or emails for a lot of people, so we are relying on Instagram. We're literally looking up, you know, the North American clubs, what's their Instagram page, and then we're messaging them. So for anybody who is listening tonight, or even in the future episodes that you're going to run, Gareth, I just ask you guys, just please have a look at your messages to see if there's any message from Johnny G. Foley or at Lap the Lake for Luca. As we put a summary in there in the message, I suppose, requesting support, just explaining what we do, what's the ambition, when we hope to do it, and why we're looking to get it done. So just want to thank you, Gareth, for your support, having me on as well, and to all your listeners. Certainly a privilege being on here, being able to tell our story.
no, and I'll make sure we do our part to connect you with some of the, obviously we have a good connection here with some of the Boston clubs too, around the Northeast. So I know obviously Galway was a team you were with. So we'll make sure Peter Murray and some of the boys there from Galway get on there. So again, wish you all the best. I hope to get up to Chicago once it's all done and get a pint with you, and you can tell me all about it.
I love it. And yeah. And again, anybody who's on, follow our page, because we hope to keep posting reels and keep posting updates. And even as I do the cycle, the ambition is that we give daily updates as well on that. So if you really want to truly follow our journey, follow at Lap the Lake for Luca, and that's Luca with a C.
Perfect. Well, John, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. We'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Almost an hour.
Thanks a million, Gareth.
Almost an hour. Goes by quick. But just before we wrap up, quick shout out to our sponsors, Masita, as always, who've always been a great support to us for the podcast. Again, it's at Lap the Lake for Luca with a C, right? And we will make sure we'll get all those links posted for you as well. With that being said, appreciate the time. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for listening, and we will talk soon.